Hey everybody, so today I want to talk a little bit about socialism and the positive aspects about it. So without getting into the whole left-wing versus right-wing nonsense, I thought I'd talk about socialism in more economic terms. So for starters, we live in a country, the United States, where the Democratic President Barack Obama, after he put forward Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, he was labeled as a socialist, Marxist, communist, etc. When in reality, this healthcare plan was one of the single largest uh, private insurance scams in this country to date, where this was simply a government mandate to buy private health insurance. It was all for the private insurance companies. It's one of the single largest wealth transfers in this country, where the wealth is transferred from the poorest Americans to the richest Americans. And the average American is worse off as a result of sticking with these private insurance enslavement scams like Obamacare. This isn't socialism, this is crony capitalism. And socialism would actually prove to do the exact opposite. Instead of screwing over your fellow human, socialism is all about supporting your fellow human being and ensuring that they get the health insurance that they deserve. In socialist countries like in Scandinavia and Denmark and Sweden, your healthcare is completely covered. You don't have these private insurance scams. Your healthcare is covered. If you get cancer, you are 100% covered. That is a huge weight that is just lifted off of your shoulders that you don't have to worry about. That's why in these countries like Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, etc., they're the happiest places on earth. Denmark is the happiest country on earth because people don't have to worry about education. They don't have to worry about their healthcare costs. In terms of education, in Denmark, you get paid to go to school. You get paid to go to school. Here in the United States, the costs are insane to get an education. That is suffocating. It is suffocating students in this country. To get a college degree, you have to go through so much hell with payment. Kids are graduating college suffocated by their student loan debt to the point where they are basically depressed as a result of their student loan debt. Once again, in Denmark, you get paid. You get paid to go to school. I don't know how all these capitalists at least don't acknowledge that that's somehow a good thing. That is a good thing to get paid to go to school when the alternative is to be suffocated by student loan debt. It's so obvious. It is really so obvious. And that's really what socialism is all about. It's about looking after your fellow human being, supporting your fellow human being, redistributing the wealth, not from the bottom to the top like Obamacare does, but rather redistributing it from the top to the bottom of society, and ensuring that these multi-billionaires are paying their fair share in taxes, so that way we can pay for health care, and we can pay for education for the poorest Americans, working class, middle class Americans, and ensuring that that they have a good life, that the standard of living for those people is very good. And standard of living is a very large thing that socialists care about, that it seems like capitalists couldn't give two damns about now in these days with their free trade outsourcing deals. When you look at trade, socialist trade policies have a lot to do with fair trade and tariffs. And tariffs are very beneficial to both developing and developed countries. With developed countries, on one hand, it's very important because we always have the fight for 15 in this country. Fight for $15 an hour minimum wage, which makes a lot of sense. Which in reality, it should actually be more like $20, $21, $22, $23 an hour minimum wage. Because if you adjust it with inflation, if you take the minimum wage in the 60s and 70s and adjust it for inflation today, it would be around like $20, $21, $22 an hour minimum wage. That's what it really should be, but $15, okay, I guess that's good enough. But why would a company hire you to make something, to manufacture something for $15 an hour or $20 an hour or whatnot, when in China they're doing the same thing for $2, $3 an hour, Vietnam, El Salvador, etc., etc. So that's why these free trade outsourcing deals like NAFTA, TPP threaten American workers, because it completely opens the door up to outsourcing, and that's what's happened with NAFTA, with jobs going to Mexico. And TPP said the jobs that hadn't gone to Mexico, ship them off to Asia. I mean, because we don't have these tariffs in place, it's allowed for people to outsource to places like China. If we had good tariffs in place, that wouldn't be the case. And thankfully, there is talk of tariffs with the 25% tariff on steel and the 15% or the 10 or 15% tariff on aluminum. I think that's a really good start, but we really need to be going further than that, because not having large tariffs in place threatens the American worker, and it threatens our standard of living. The standard of living every single year in this country has been going down year after year after year after year after year. We are on the downward trajectory. It is getting worse every single year. We need to be going on the upward trajectory. You want your kids to have a better life than you, but that's not happening now these days. People are coming to the reality that their children and their grandchildren are going to be worse off than they are. And that's why things like open trade and open borders threaten the American worker. As Bernie Sanders once said, open borders, that's a Koch brothers policy. He was 100% right. I'm not a huge fan of Bernie Sanders. I've made that clear in a lot of my videos, but he was 100% right when it came to that issue. And those are two things, open trade and open borders, two things that the capitalists like, that would completely destroy this country beyond the point where you would not even be able to recognize it anymore. Those are two things that would absolutely destroy this country, that we really need to be cognizant of, and we really need to fight. And socialist policies around trade and immigration and whatnot could be very beneficial to protect the American worker. I think that's very important. And once again, standard of living, ensuring that standard of living doesn't just go down, doesn't just remain the same, but instead it goes up on a positive trajectory. And that's what socialism really aims to do. And once again, to conclude this video, socialism is all about, like I said before, looking after your fellow human being and acknowledging them as your fellow citizen, as your comrade, and as someone who you really want to help and you want to see succeed in life. And we don't have enough of that in this country. We basically hate each other in this country. We are constantly at each other's teeth, or at each other's throat, and we do things to screw over our fellow citizens, and we are constantly competing with one another. We should stop this. We should be able to love each other and to look after each other and to learn to share with one another. That's where we should be headed. So anyways, I think that I have said enough in this video. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this. I know I'm just imagining the comments right now, but it's okay. I think that civil disagreement is very extremely healthy, and I look forward to that. So until the next video, I'll talk to you later.